Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Ladies with Tradies, how to stop shit hitting the fan in love, life, and business. Today's topic is volume is vanity, profit is sanity. And one of our podcast guests sent that through to me, and I'm like, mate, we're going to use that as the title for the potty that we're doing together. So good job on that, Sam. I've got Sam and Laura Sims from Ballan Builders here. They're going to tell you a little bit about themselves shortly. The reason I chose these guys for this podcast all about money management is that they have been doing some really cool stuff in their building company to ensure that cash flow is less lumpy, that they aren't taking all the responsibility for everything that goes on for themselves. They're giving that out a bit to their staff. And essentially everything that they're doing in order to become much more profitable, which is really exciting. So welcome, Sam and Laura. Thanks for joining us today.
Okay, thank you.
So tell us all about Ballan Builders. When did you start? How many of you are there? Give us, what do you do? Give us a bit of a rundown on Ballan Builders.
So 2007 we started just over 20 years. Weren't even married back then. And then we've gone through over the years fluctuating up and down, but I think we took over Ballan Builders, my dad's business, about 12 years ago. Yeah, 12 years ago. We've had up and down staff. So yeah, we've got 9 staff now, me and Laura included, and then we put on an admin last year, which at the time I thought, what the hell have I done? But that was the best thing we ever did.
Beautiful, beautiful. And Laura, how long have you worked in the business?
I've always been in the business, doing the zero and the reconciling and all that sort of stuff. And then when our youngest went to school 4 years ago, I moved out of the business a little bit and got a job at the local kindergarten. And then in COVID, finished that up and came back into the business. And so I've been back in 2.5 years full time. And
that'd be not long before you did Amp It Up with us, which was the first ever Amp It Up that we ran, I think, Laura.
Yeah, so I came back into the business and thought something had to change, and that's when I joined up for Amp It Up, and Sam was going to give me 1 week. I'll give Ladies with Tradies 1 week. And we're still here 2 and a bit years later.
I love that. We might talk to Sam about a bit more about that later. All right. So thanks, guys. This month is all about money management, and today in particular, because we've flogged a lot of the money stuff on our social media. For those of you listening, if you haven't gone and caught up, Josie did a finance challenge in our Ladies with Tradies group, and lots of cool stuff and education in there. But I want to talk about how that's applied, particularly in your building company, how you choose the right work for the right profit, and then scheduling that in to maximize cash flow. So this is something you've been working on for a little while. So when it comes to all of that, how did you used to manage things?
Whatever work comes through the door, we took on.
Say again?
Whatever work comes through the door, we just grabbed it and ran with it.
Right.
Worried about everything else sort of later. So now we've got our tiers. So like our bathrooms, our renovations and our new homes.
Mm-hmm.
And then we work through, obviously we're custom builders, so everything's customized and everything. So yeah, we do it that way. 2 years ago, well, we were okay, and then COVID hit, and obviously the builders
we weren't okay because I just come back. Yeah.
And with builders, we had contracts out and prices skyrocketed with materials and everything. So that was a huge added cost for us.
Yeah.
And something that we had to work out how we were going to get through it.
Yeah. So essentially so the first thing Sam said was whatever rolled in the door, we just said yes and took it. So And being a yes man is a bit of a symptom that we see often in our tradies when we first first meet them, what was the mindset back then, Sam, that you felt that you had to do that?
Because we've done work for them before, we might run out of work and all those sort of things, all those stories we tell ourselves.
The lovely, I might run out of work. And I love asking the question, and for the listeners, the question I always ask is, so tell me the last time you didn't have any work. And they look into the, out into the ether, and they scratch their heads and they go, oh, I don't remember the last time I didn't have any work. I'm like, right. So the likelihood that you're going to run out is pretty slim then by the sounds. Oh, yeah, I suppose. But you just never know. You just never know. So you've now started to choose work fairly specifically then. Tell us about how you go about that.
So we introduced a screening process, which we do a client form which they fill in, and then which Vanessa will do all that. Vanessa's our amazing admin. She does all that, sends it out. From there, she will then take it to Sam and say, this is what we've got. Yes, no, where can this fit in the schedule, sort of thing. And that has been pretty much a game changer. It has the pricing tiers on it too. So we know if someone wants to build a new home for $200,000, well, that's, not reasonable. So it goes to the next stage, sort of thing. So we can quickly send off a reply without going through a huge meeting and conversations to get to the final answer, which, we can't build a house for that much.
Beautiful.
Saves me a lot of time. I don't spend anywhere near the time quoting now because, we're only quoting probably 40% of what comes through the door. And the other 60% sort of screening itself out. It's been really helpful. And for example, we can't have all new homes. We try and do 3 to 4 new homes a year. We don't try and do them all at once. We've got a new home coming up. So at the moment, we're looking at, okay, we've got a $100,000 veranda project to do. And we've got a couple of bathrooms. So, okay, we'll start them in a clump. And that way, it moves around. And talking to clients, even in the climate we're moving into, we've still got a lot of work coming through the door. So there's no need to panic and go, the economy's not looking like we've done everything, which I really do myself. Stick to the rules.
Stick to the rules. So it's just breaking up a little bit there, Sam. So but what Sam was saying there was, stick to the process, stick to the rules that we've created around what jobs fit into the schedule so that we're cash flowed appropriately, and so we don't have any bottlenecks as far as money coming through the door goes. And I guess that what you said in there, guys, was that it's been helpful to break down the markets that you work in, I suppose. So you talked about bathroom renovations and extensions, and also new builds. So have you really honed that in? What have you done to ensure that, because it sounds to me like exactly what your plan is a year ahead and what jobs you're doing when?
Yeah, so we've worked a lot around that this year on how many bathrooms we need, how many renovations, and how many new homes. And then we sort of reverse engineered it to work out, okay, well, with our inquiry, we'll take on this. We need to, go and look at, 20 bathrooms to get 10 bathrooms for the year.
Yeah. So your conversion rate, from inquiry to signing contracts.
It's the beauty of having an admin person, having staff to track that.
Yeah.
And also having Tom involved in our actual scheduling and involved. And a byproduct
he's your 2IC, Sam, Tom.
Yeah, and he's really stepping it up. And then he's got a say in how the schedule looks a little bit too. And with our screening process now, it's meant that our staff are much happier with the clients and the type of work we're doing, which is
the flow on is it works easier for them. They get it done quicker, which we get the job done quicker and move on.
which means better cash flow, better profitability, which is amazing. So tell me about, so Sam, the volume is vanity, profit is sanity thing. So that's all you sent through to me on Messenger a couple of weeks ago. And I've been dying for today, don't mind the dog in the background, to ask you what the trigger was to send that message in the context of this conversation around money management. What does it mean to you?
Well, probably the last 4 or 5 years, I just went as hard as I could, you know what I mean, and didn't plan much and just took on everything and just, you know, was always flat out.
Yeah, you saw the revenue number or the income number going up, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm fucking killing it.
And then wait to go to the accountant and go, yeah, we had a really good year, which we did a couple of years, and then a couple of years, you know, we didn't. And I was talking to my accountant the other day, and he made that comment, you know. So yeah, that's where I think we get wrapped up in how busy we are by saying yes to everything.
Yeah. So the volume of work is where it's you know, it's like likes on Facebook. I liken it to that. It is a vanity measure. And I always say, you know, the amount of income on the top line of your profit and loss statement is not a dick extension. It's just a number on a page. Just because you got more numbers up there doesn't mean that what's fallen out the bottom is a good result. So for you guys, you've really focused in on that, not working like absolute dogs, more honing in on the profitability of the business, the right work with the right people, the right level of efficiency. It's been bloody beautiful to watch. So that's been pretty cool. So you said about, you mentioned around the scheduling of the work. And this is where people come unstuck a lot, we find, especially our builders. Tell the listeners more about how you schedule based on job size. There's a lot to be learnt here.
So I suppose with our bigger jobs, we moved away from the smaller jobs a few years ago and then realised that, okay, there was a bit of a cash flow problem because we're waiting for the bigger stage payments. Mm-hmm. We didn't have anything smaller to slot in. Yep. And the guys were a little bit light on work every so often. So this is where we came back to having a discussion with our coach and what we could do. And that's why we've added in the bathrooms to just help the cash flow not be as lumpy and as 1 month it's big, 1 month it's not as big. So with the scheduling, I suppose involving our tools and involving our staff. So, you know, they're scheduled to the end of the year. They know exactly what's happening. And I just think what you can empower your staff for more than.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
say that again.
Yeah, they feel more involved.
Yeah. They're involved in and committed to the process of the schedule as well, because I think what we can do as business owners, we will plan a job based on what we think can be delivered, and that's not always realistic.
And I stepped away from that a bit because I'm not on site all the time.
Yeah.
And so that's when, and Tom was looking to do some more work in the office, and we put him through a level up tradie with you guys, and he absolutely loved it. So yeah, having him involved, and then he's our contact between the two, you know, the staff and everyone. You know, we're one big family.
Yeah, love it.
So we sort of have the schedule, and they have a sort of a meeting. Sam, Tom, Vanessa was in as well. Mm-hmm. And then I come in and they had the schedule, and then I work out, okay, well, from that, where can we fit the payments in? Mm-hmm. And then, okay, well, this needs to be done by there, so we get a payment. And that way that sort of helped Tom also realise, okay, well, that needs to be done then so that the next stage can progress. So it's been good for him as well. Yeah, that's huge, the finance, when the money's hitting the account and having a bit of a buffer. We're not running into problems.
Yeah, so you're not getting to end of month going, holy heck, what are we going to do here?
And then we're blowing, and, you know, I'm saying, well, I'm working as hard as I can, and I was like, where's the money? And yeah, there's none of that.
Oh, how good. That's a big key there. So what Sam and Laura have done really well is they're working with their team, Tom in particular, and Vanessa in admin, to go, rightio, well, this is how Tom and the team of and Sam have planned the schedule, but where does the money drop in accordance to that? Do we need to push harder on that stage of the job because there's a cash flow deficit this week or this fortnight? And then do it, like, move things around accordingly. Too many, and I guess, I think this was a little bit you guys in the past too. It's a bit like, well, just, do it the best we can and the money will come when we finish the stage, and then we'll move on to the next job or the next stage, and then the money will arrive again whenever we finish that. And it's a bit of a ship in the wind, I suppose.
Yeah, and that was us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I guess, so you've made some massive changes. You had lumpy cash flow. You weren't sure when, you'd need, we all know end of month is when the money's required. We've got BAS tax, all that kind of stuff. So you've worked hard on managing the cash flow position. Can you remember what the first thing was that you did to change your profit and cash flow position in your business, like that really turned things around?
I suppose it was diving more into our numbers.
Mm-hmm.
We probably were a bit of stick our head in the sand and we'll find out in July or August when we have our tax meeting what happened. But to really go through the numbers and work out where we were bleeding out, I suppose.
And track them monthly.
Tracking them monthly, yep.
Yeah, and even weekly.
And what number particularly are you most drawn to, Sam? What's the thing you look at most? Could be anything, really.
Yeah, I always like to see what our percentage is on wages, because that works on, how things are moving on site. But it's not always, it could be I've stuffed something up and the quoting, the weather, or it could be your staff not getting enough done. So there's a lot of contributing factors to that. There
is. So really interesting, because a lot of people will go, what do you mean you're tracking your percentage of wages? Join our programs to find out more. But the wages percentage is, especially in our tradie businesses, can be a really good indicator of efficiency. And so you looked at that pretty hard, and that really showcases, like you said, have I quoted enough? Did I put enough time in the job? If not, then we're probably going to kick up on our wages percentage. That's going to be a big problem.
And the other thing we've pulled away from, so Tom, our 2IC now, is more involved in our quoting and allocating the time.
Yeah.
And we nearly made a mistake 12 months ago. We thought we need to put another person on, we'll put another tradie on. And luckily our coach pulled us up and said, let's run the numbers. What do we actually need? And we put an admin on, which means I get to get out on site a little bit more, which is what, I first become a tradie to do.
So interesting, and we've proven it over and over again. You'll make more money putting an admin person in than you will putting another tradie on. It's pretty fascinating. And, let's not forget that both directors, whilst twiddling their thumbs a lot more than they used to, are drawing wages out of this company, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So was that a big change too for your business?
Yeah. So Sam had drawn a wage, but I previously hadn't drawn a wage. So now I take a wage as well.
Yeah. And you've got an admin person drawing a wage.
Yeah.
And you've got, what percentage split is Tom as far as admin versus tools?
Well, he's only about 4 hours a week at the moment, so not heaps, but that's something that will evolve.
Yeah. So we're pretty heavy on admin in here, and we're still profitable, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
Never been better.
And you went on a holiday not long ago. Tell me about that experience, Sam and Laura.
I've never been on a more relaxed holiday for 9 days. I think I maybe had 15 to 20 phone calls for the 9 days.
Yeah.
Normally I'd get that many in a day, but we planned it. We had our money dropping, and we got, obviously, Tom in. I think too many times as business owners, we try and tell our staff how we want to run. And he wasn't comfortable with a couple of things we were going to do while we were away, so we swapped the schedule to help him as well and the staff, and we didn't have any problems. Surprise, surprise. And I got a relaxing holiday, and everything was on schedule when we come back. A couple of little hiccups, but nothing.
Nothing that wasn't fixed the next day.
And I was present.
And we have a bit of a joke in Ladies with Tradies. Last time Sam and Laura went away on holiday, we wanted to put him on a plane and send him home because he was that painful. So I was pretty excited to hear when they got back that it was a very relaxing time, which was lovely. So you've got a schedule that's working for you. You're managing cash flow in a really beneficial way for the business, that you've got you guys drawing money, good amounts of money out of the company. You've got profitability happening.
Yep.
What else, like what are some of the gold part, like you've talked about wages, Sam, that you really look at? What are you watching, Laura, as far as the money goes in your role?
The cost of goods has been one over the last 2 years that we've really had to watch. We were lucky enough, planned, not really lucky, that we could get some material before the timber went up.
Mm-hmm.
So we had planned all that out, how much we needed, and where we could store it and everything like that. So we were lucky with that, that we had some money behind us to go ahead and do that, because otherwise that would have held up our jobs, and therefore we would still be doing those jobs now. So yeah, we did that. Also, obviously, the profit is, because you can have a huge revenue, but if you're not making any profit, what is the point of the huge revenue, really?
Yeah.
And I do a lot more of the forecasting with the numbers, to know where we are going to be the next month, the next quarter, that sort of stuff.
If we're hitting our goals.
Yeah. Goals. Was that something you used to do, or is that new?
Just put my head down and arse up and went as hard as I could for the 12 months.
And it's so interesting, the trust in the accountant, which is great, and you want to have a good trusting relationship with your accountant. But what activities now, you guys are clearly much more in control of your own finances, rather than just rolling up July, August and going, oh, hey, Mr. Accountant, where are we at? What activities do you do as a couple as far as monitoring goes, and setting goals and targets, and what sort of conversations do you have now that are different to back in the day when you did none of it?
We have our directors meeting now, and that's sort of where we all go over our finances and where they're going.
Whether the schedule needs to be slightly adjusted, because obviously your schedule, you've got to keep reviewing that because things happen.
Yep.
What else we do? Well,
we went to our accountant last year. We know before we go to the accountant.
I've got the questions like what, he actually said to me, oh, you're a bit more confident, Laura, you've brought all the questions this time. So,
amazing.
And your accountant doesn't have time to be trying to coach you and follow your numbers every step of the way. They're there to either minimise your tax and do all those sorts of things. So
yep. And we are responsible as business owners for what our finances are doing, not the accountant. And I see so often in different groups where people are going, oh, my accountant should have this and my accountant should have that. No, it's your business, not the accountant's. 3
fingers back at me, 1 finger out at everyone else.
Yeah, that's right. And it is, don't point the finger, because it's actually all on you.
Business coach told me that once.
We're one of your business coaches, good on them. So tell us, so when you're having that directors meeting, what specifically in the finances are you looking at?
Well, we're looking at the wages.
Yep.
And our cost of goods.
Yep.
And then our profit and revenue. So them 4 numbers are pretty much what we go over.
So we know 3 weeks out, you get your bill, so Laura knows exactly how much is coming out and how much we need. So there's not that panic.
So you've got the ins and outs conversation too, and when the cash is going to drop. That's how we describe it anyway.
Yeah.
And you know, hey, Tom, you need to put the pressure on a little bit more because we've got a cash flow issue this week or that week. So that's a really cool thing. You also had a fairly good look at your break even over time too.
Yeah. So that's the break even in the finance fund sheet was probably
very few people, I think, in small business would know what their break even is. It's scary.
So tell us what that changed for you, knowing your break even, Sam.
We know how much money we need aside for Christmas for our shutdown.
Mm-hmm.
We explained that to our staff too, which they were a little bit surprised. And how we're now moving into Laura setting up a separate account so that each week we put so much away. And so at Christmas you don't sit there and watch the bank account drain.
Unreal.
Yeah.
So sorry, Laura.
I was just going to say, so the break even, for us to know that, like at the start of the month, it just makes it that as long as that comes in, we'll be okay. And, you know, at the moment we are okay, but, you know, I'd like to think if we had that 4 years ago, it just would have been.
And it makes me more comfortable when I'm doing a quote.
Yep.
Yeah, because things have gone so much up. When people question that, I know that's what it has to be.
Yep.
I go, go back to the ice ages of 4 or 5 years ago, and I can work for $50 an hour. Well, I'll be out of business in less than 6 months because our break even's higher than that.
Yeah. And so knowing that number, whether it's an hourly, weekly, monthly figure, we must invoice this just to open the doors. Now, I want to make a little point here for the listeners. All the break evens that we work on with our clients include wages or drawings for the business owners. So we make sure that inside of what it takes for you to break even, you're actually making money for yourselves too. Sometimes when we first start with businesses, there's not much profit left, but at the minimum, you've got to take your own money first and feed your own family first. So
there's so many hidden costs that you just forget about.
Yeah, we don't let you though.
No, you don't. Josie's spreadsheet has everything.
Josie's spreadsheet, everybody loves it. All right, so we've talked a bit about the types of work that you take on, your bathrooms, your extensions, renos, and your house, your full houses. Where you do have profit targets and revenue targets, you guys.
Yep.
You didn't just say, oh, we want 14 bathrooms per year. How did you go about working? Because it's a bit of a jigsaw puzzle, isn't it? It's about going what's going to fit where. How did you go about working through that? Because I think all the builders would be like, shit, it'd be good to know how to do that.
So we had a rough revenue that we wanted to hit. So then from that, again, we reverse engineered it to how many bathrooms we would need to hit a bathroom revenue target, how many average renovation cost, and then how many of them we would need, and then how many new homes. So that's how we got to our revenue target. And then once we wrote it down, it's amazing when you just
it was a bit
back. Yeah,
it was a bit scary to start with, and you were like, "Hey, no, we can do this," and I was like, "Oh." And I did fall into a trap at one point of going, "Oh, we just need to do all our bathrooms in winter." There's no doubt we need to do more bathrooms in winter because of the weather, but it's not just the weather thing; it's a cash flow thing, and that happens. So like we're finishing up 2 bathrooms this week, and then that will be it for them until February, March. But, knowing that, because obviously that would be a little bit crazy to be trying to do them in the lead up to Christmas.
Yeah, love it. And I had a question that's fallen out of my head there, but with the, I love that you talk about winter specifically and having weather tolerant work, I suppose you would say. It's knowing your revenue, and when we set that revenue target, I remember it was like, woo, sphincter pucker, this is a bit scary. But do you feel a bit like oh, we're doing this a bit easy? And are you kind of every now and then questioning that?
Yeah, well, I have to be careful, as you've told me, Kate, not to go throwing grenades and blowing it all up because everything's running. I'd like a little bit of chaos. So, yeah, just being careful too, not to. So when I work on site now a lot more, I don't try and be in control. That's Tom and the guys, you know what I mean? We just sort of float in and out.
Yeah.
So you've got to be careful. We keep that happy environment.
Yeah. And I think I had a chat with a couple of the guys on the weekend at our Christmas party, and it's so easy to, you give the responsibility to somebody else, but when you're kind of hands in your pockets a bit looking for things to do, you can accidentally take it back, which undermines their authority and responsibility. I remember first meeting you guys, and I can't remember if it was you, Laura, or Sam, but the staff used to absolutely hate Sam putting on a tool belt.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, God, can you just bugger off? This job works so much better without you. Are they a little more amenable to you rocking up now, love? Or
Yeah, and I was the top of top control freaks, you know what I mean? I could do everything the best, and yeah, there was no doubt about that. I probably try and control my emotions are a lot more in check now because I know what's going on.
Got a plan.
And yeah, so I turn up and I still swing the hammer, and but I have a bit of a joke with them, and it's more you feel more side by side, if that makes sense.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so it's not
I'm
a
not a
dictatorship
dictator
anymore. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's so great. So that's that support for in that. So you talked about we're more organised and we've got a plan now, Laura. That just snuck out of you there. I'm like, yeah, well, a plan always helps. And so how has the plan changed life for your people?
For our family or our staff or all of us?
Your staff particularly.
Yeah.
So on Monday mornings now we start at 7:30, and they have 15 minutes to talk shit.
I love that we implemented the 15-minute talk shit. That was fun.
Because we were finding Mondays were watching our figures, and Mondays we just weren't hitting targets. And everyone wants to have a chat about the weekend. And it's like all these things, even me stepping back and then stepping back on, it doesn't work straight away. You've got to work at it and involve your staff in that decision. And now Mondays work really well. Instead of finishing at 4:30, because the guys have 45-minute lunch break and a half an hour smoko, which is what they want. We try and work within what they want a little bit too. We work an extra half an hour Monday to Thursday. So on Fridays they're there and they only have smoko, and they're out of there by 1:45 on a Friday.
Oh, bloody beautiful.
And they're still on their 30th and they still get their RDO. And all of a sudden Fridays too, we still get nearly just as much done on a Friday, probably more than what we used to on a Friday, because they're not laying around, they're in and they're out. But we've spent a bit of time on that, the talking shit dragged out a bit early days and the Fridays, but when your staff understand what they need to do to give them some work-life balance, it works. I'm really careful not to make them work overtime on that Friday, otherwise I feel like that'll just blow it up.
Oh, so let's just back it up here. So we're a profitable business now that gives our staff RDOs. They only work 4 days, a little bit, half an hour longer?
Half an hour.
Yeah.
A half hour longer day a week. So RDOs, only a half hour extra per day. Early knock, very early knock on a Friday. Plus they get their annual leave on top.
Yeah.
This is a good advertisement for anyone looking for a chippy job right now in Ballan.
We take our staff out for lunch once a month.
And we'd have lunch once a month. And you do your staff meetings, you do bacon and egg or something too, don't you?
Oh, no. So we have staff meetings once a month we take them all out. And that's when basically I've got to be careful because I use negative language here where I say, they bring their grievances, but that's once a month if they're not happy with something. And we talk about any safety issues. So it's like a big toolbox meeting.
Where we're all together, admin and everyone.
And we talk about what we need, what our targets are, where we need to be hitting. Like one of the comments come back from one of the guys the other day, I feel like Fridays we're getting pushed too hard.
Yeah.
So then when we done, I probably jumped on it a bit and Laura pulled me up. So I spoke to the staff member at the time, and then it come out that they weren't planning their day maybe quite as they should be. earlier in the week, which was forcing them to have a more under the pump Friday. So all of a sudden they've adjusted too.
Amazing. So they're doing the problem solving together in those more casual / arranged meetings once per month, which is beautiful. So more efficient, more profitable, and they're on the tools a heck of a lot less. People must just be listening to this going, what? How are we doing this? But it's happening. So much so that you guys have actually turned your numbers around by an average net profit percentage of 25.
Yeah.
So it's taken us a little while to turn it, because that's what happens with builders is, you know, if we diagnose the problem or some of the symptoms, not charging enough, not efficient enough, got, you know, too many people or not enough, that kind of thing. Takes builders a little bit longer because you've got contracts so far out. But in the last 3 to 4 months, you've turned it 25%.
Yeah. Gone from a negative to a positive. So
a lot positive for a builder too. So that is a pretty huge thing. And it's interesting because what's the margin that builders always spruik, Sam, that builders can only ever do what percentage margin?
Well, they love running on 10%, but that only, you know, and that only you're only breaking even if you're making 10%.
10 to 15 is what they'll say. Oh, you know, builders, we'll get 15. I'm like, we can actually make you a whole lot more. And you guys have turned very quickly well over that number as far as percentage profit, which is
we put a lot of work into that though, and with our staff and explaining these are the perks, but we need to come back. You know, and we buy bacon and egg rolls. You know, for example, their timesheets, Vanessa was chasing them because that's Vanessa's department, the timesheets. A few other guys were a bit laggy. Well, they've just hit their 2-week target, so they've been told they'll get bacon, egg rolls and coffees because they've hit the target. And if they're doing, the other week they had to cart windows 30 metres into a job. Like me years ago would have said, bad luck, that's your job, get on with it. You know, they get a bacon. We try and do that sort of little stuff as well. Recognise that, that was a shit job.
The 1%ers.
Yeah. And I mean, the last 2 years have been hard on businesses, but employees as well. So you need to give them back a little bit as well.
I think that's one thing I've really seen from a leadership perspective in you guys. In our Legend Status program, you're always thinking about how to do better as leaders. So much so that I had to have a bit of a chat with Sam and say, dial it back a bit, mate. You're being a bit hard on yourself. Like, I'm loving how you're overthinking things and thinking hard and not just throwing hammers and carrying on, but you know, you've really lent into authentic leadership, you guys, and you're leaning into who you really are and not feeling like you've got to be, like you said before, the dictator or the authoritarian, and you're giving respect to your people and then getting that back in return, which has been bloody magic to watch.
And talking to staff how they want to be talked to, doing their profiles. Because I think the mistake we fall into is communicate with how we feel comfortable instead of how each staff member's different. They're all got a different profile. Yeah.
Personality profile Sam's talking about there, which we're big fans of here at Ladies with Tradies.
Kate spoke to one of them about, I thought you'd have a nose piercing or something, and a week after it, here he is with a nose piercing.
I basically gave him the green flag. It's all right to have a nose piercing, mate. You knock yourself out because you're an individual. No, that's so cool. So I guess to wind up, guys, there's lots of gems you've already given in here, but as far as not going with volume being the vanity measure and focusing in on profitability to keep your sanity, what's a gem each that you want to impart on to the listeners? What's one thing that you like? This is the gold nugget.
I suppose mine being money that we're talking about is that you do get carried away in your revenue, I think. I think we all do, not looking at the profit. Now, we turned over this much this year, but...
I don't blame your wife having a secret bank account.
Yeah, Sam used to think I had a secret bank account somewhere that I would put it all in. So I think looking at your profit and working out where you're bleeding. I know we're just probably sticking our heads in the sand a little bit where we were bleeding out and thinking, it'll be okay because one day it'll come together. So really just putting everything aside and just really looking at your numbers.
Love it. Thanks, Laura. What about for you, Sam?
Working harder isn't always the answer.
Mm.
Because I used to work ridiculous hours, and I still love my work and still work, more than a 40-hour week, and I enjoy that, and that's my choice. But I'm more productive because I've got a schedule, I've got a rundown, and things still happen every day. Geez, I've dealt with about 4 problems this morning, but that's part of business. And when you've got a schedule and you've got a team behind you knowing what's going on and involving staff in what you're doing.
Get them all over it, improves efficiency and makes it all, again, it's all about that bottom number, that profit figure at the end of the day. And, so what I guess my little takeaway and thought for this segment in particular, that around the vanity measure of revenue versus profitability, it's all right if you want to, it's okay to cop a little bit from the profit perspective if it means that you're drawing out a really awesome wage for yourself and you're not putting much time into the business. Businesses that have got lower profit but really awesome, like as directors, you've got a great lifestyle or like a big fat wallet, it's all right to run profit a little bit lower as long as it's sustainable. So what you guys are working at is lifestyle, that's where you're really running yourselves now is, and I'm pushing you on, come on, better goals, thanks, bigger goals, more time oriented. You've got, picking the kids up from school and going to events and stuff like that's now part of your regime, Sam, where it never used to be. At some of the beautiful stories you guys have told us about that over the last couple of years been really heartwarming. So huge amounts of info in there. If this isn't listened to by every bloody builder from here to Kui, they're bloody idiots, because there's so much value as far as how you can manage your money. Too many builders will say, oh, but that's just our industry. It's just how it is, which might have been a familiar thing to you, Sam, once upon a time.
I'm too busy.
Yeah,
I was too busy.
Yeah. But you've focused in and you're getting the results. So big congrats, guys. Thanks so much for your time today. Can't wait to get this out there and for everybody to have a listen. Go and have a good one. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Kate.
Bye.
Bye.